The big thing here, they missed such an opportunity here because look at what Britain's doing. They're building a new nuclear plant every year. Now, with the AUKUS deal, they had every chance to say, we are doing a nuclear defense industry and we're going to have a civilian industry as well. They missed a trick there, and they could have staked out a real point of difference. If you look at this election, on all sorts of issues, it's fascinating. Both sides tacked very close to one another. So the Libs tried to tack very close to Labour on climate, but Anthony Albanese tried to tack very close on things like transport and things like that and all of that. Housing opened up as an issue, but only in that last week. Too late, because Morrison didn't want a scare campaign run against him like Work Choices was run against him, against John Howard in 2007. So that was a failure of imagination. And so there was this great issue, nuclear. It was to lay down misère, started at the beginning of the campaign, run it through.
James, I wrote in The Spectator 18 months ago, if the Libs want to win this election, they should do what John Howard did with the GST and turn the nuclear issue into their thing to galvanise people and say, we will give you cheap energy, we will give you manufacturing, we will bring industry back to this country. And you're right, James, that will allow us to power our nuclear subs. It means we're strong against China. It could have been everything. How dumb were you? I cannot believe it. Scott Morrison, I'm sending you a subscription to The Spectator. Obviously, you don't have one.
And talking about dumb and blind, they, again, barely touched on the chaos under Labor with border protection. And the fact that it's going to happen again, because it always does. And we talked last week about just how awful and ineffective Liberals' ads were. The bloody leaky bucket nonsense, which just irritated you. The Gollum thing, which was just bewildering.
Trippy and weird.
But why not actually show the chaos, the 50,000 boat arrivals, people dying at sea, more than 1,000 men, women and children, our detention centres full, our refugee program completely compromised, and the cost, the human cost, the cost to the country, no. There was absolutely, really, only touching on that. Or Labor aren't really committed to secure borders. No, you've got to demonstrate for the public what happens under Labor. They failed to do that. They failed to fight on their principles and their issues because they've been running away from their principles and their issues.
And I'm glad you talked about the advertising, Rita, because the advertising was just absolutely non-existent.
Awful.
You look at 2019. Remember the great ads that they had? Bill Shorten, the bill Australia can't afford. That was an excellent ad. But, you know, the bucket ad, the Gollum, the social media game was very, very weak. And, you know, they did a good job, I think, pushing out a lot of good sort of stories about Labor and what Labor would be like. You know, they pushed very hard on the number of criminals that were released from immigration detention by Labor when they were in power, but they never capitalized that with an advertising campaign. And I felt like they were almost running scared from that in the bigger picture. Again, you know, it's almost as if people have forgotten after 10 years what it was like. Well, they're going to get reminded again.
People have forgotten, and people have forgotten that we lost control of our borders, and just about everybody in the media, in the leftist media, said these are push factors, it's not pull factors, there's nothing you can do because unless you can go and solve Afghanistan or solve this crisis in this part of the world. And Tony Abbott showed what an absolute nonsense that was, and that you can claim control of your borders. And this is an issue Australians care deeply about. And Labor has tried to neutralise it by saying we support what the Libs are doing, but they clearly don't. And they're open about not supporting facets of it that are crucial. So without one pillar, the whole thing falls apart. And the coalition, again, failed to prosecute that argument. You know what? A Conservative party that has no conservative policies, that has no conservative ideals, deserves to lose.